Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we are going to learn the last part of module 1, network models. So in network models, it includes layer task, OSI model, layers in OSI model, TCP bar IP protocol suite. So these four are today we are going to learn. Network models. A network is a combination of hardware and software that sends data from one location to another. So a network is a combination of hardware and software. Hardware consists of physical equipment that carries signals from one point to another. So hardware is usually a physical equipment that carries signals from one point to another. And the software consists of instruction sets that make possible the service that we expect from a network. So there is a network, we need to carry data from one point to another, and this data transferring occur because of the services available from the software. The software consists of set of instructions that make possible the services that we expect from a network. So we can compare the task of networking to the task of solving mathematics of a problem with a computer. So we can compare this task of networking with the mathematics problem with the computer. So the fundamental job of solving the problem with the computer is done by computer hardware. So the problem solving in computer is done by the computer hardware. However, this is a very tedious task if only hardware is involved. We would need to switches for very long memory location to store manipulate data. So it's a tedious task or slow task for a computer to do that with the hardware. The task is much easier if software is available. So software will be, when we are using software, the task will be very easy. At the highest level, a program can direct the problem solving process. The details how is done by the actual hardware can be left to the layers of software that are called the higher levels. So when we are going to the software level, the highest level can direct the problem solving access. So the highest level direct it to the lowest level, and in the software has called layers that called higher levels. Compare this to a service provided by a computer network. For example, the task of sending an email from one point to another point can be broken into several tasks, each performed by separate software packages. So when we are sending an email to our friend, in this network world, it is broken into several tasks and each performed by separate software package. So each software package uses the service of another software package. So that means each software package uses service of another software package. At the lowest layer, a signal or a set of signal is sent from the source to computer to destination computer. So at the lowest layer, the set of signal is sent from source computer to destination computer. We use the concept of layers in our daily life. As an example, let us consider two friends who needs to communicate through the postal mail. So we are taking an example of postal mail. I communicate between two friends. So the process of sending letters to a friend would be a complex if there were no services available from the post office. So figure shows the steps in the task: sender, receiver, and carrier. So the first one, the figure shows there is a sender and receiver, and in the bottom part, the parcel is carried from the source to destination. That is the carrier. And in sender side, the letter is returned, put in the envelope, and dropped in the mailbox. This letter is carried from the mailbox to a post office. The letter is delivered to a carrier by the post office. And the receiver side, the letter is delivered from the carrier to the post office, and the letter is carried from the post office to the mailbox. The letter is picked up, removed from the envelope, and read it. That is the step involved in layered task. We can say that we have a sender, a receiver, and carrier that transport the letter. There is a hierarchy of tasks. At the sender side, higher level, mid layer, lower layer. So at higher layer, the sender writes the letter, insert the letter in an envelope, writes the sender and receiver address, and drop in the mailbox. In middle layer, the letter is picked up by the letter carrier and delivered to the post office. Third layer, lower layer, the letter is sorted at the post office. A carrier transports the letter. On the way, the letter is then on its way to the recipient. On the way to the recipient local office, the letter may actually go through a central office. In addition, it may be transported by truck, train, plane, boat, or combination of these. At the receiver side, lower layer, the carrier transports the letter to the post office. Middle layer, the letter is sorted and delivered to the recipient mailbox. Higher layer, the receiver picks up the letter, opens the envelope, and read it. So that's all about the layer task. So there is a sender and receiver and a carrier. So when we are writing a letter and put it in the envelope and then writes our address in above it, and we put it in a mailbox, and it is traveled through the postman, and they will sort the letter and then go to the recipient address and give that letter to them. So that's a process, and this is involved by several tasks and several layers. That's 3 layers: lower layer, middle layer, and higher layer. So the hierarchy. From our analysis, there are 3 different activities at the sender side and another 3 activities at the receiver side. The task of transporting a letter between sender and the receiver is done by the carrier. At the sender side, the letter must be written and dropped in the mailbox before being picked up by the letter carrier and delivered to the post office. At the receiver side, the letter must be dropped in the recipient mailbox before being picked up and read by the recipient. So this is the hierarchy involved in layer tasks. And the services, the next one is services. That each layer at the sending side uses the services of the layer immediately below it. So in the sender side, it uses each layer uses the immediately below layer, service of immediately below layer. At the sender side, higher layers uses the service of middle layer. The middle layer uses the service of lower layer. The lower layer uses the service of the carrier. So that's the way service of layer service used by the each layer. Higher layer uses the service of middle layer. Middle layer uses service of lower layer. Lower layer uses the service of the carrier. So the layered model that dominates data communication and networking literature before 1990 was the open system interconnection model. That is means OSI model. Then TCP/IP protocols became dominant in commercial architecture because it was used and tested extensively in the network. So that's all about today's class. We can continue our class in our next section. So thank you for watching my video. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel, like, share, comment. Thank you.